Representative from Indiana, Mr. Stutzman, is recognized for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you to the panel for being here today. I think this has been a very informative hearing, and one that obviously I'm excited about the future, and obviously a lot is happening. I served 8 years ago, and I remember when this committee had its first hearing on cryptocurrency back in 2014, and Mr. Heisinger was the chairman of the committee. Well, fast forward to 2025, and this House has taken substantial steps regarding a federal framework for how digital assets can be incorporated into our financial ecosystem. Despite the substantial work my colleagues have done on market structure, we saw an administration over the last 4 years that chose regulation by enforcement over permanent statute. The Biden administration engaged in all-out assault on digital asset firms, token issuers, and blockchain developers. Furthermore, the SEC and the CFTC were in a turf war over their jurisdictions over these tokens, and it's my understanding that there was a lot of confusion that resulted in a lack of unity and regulation by enforcement, which harmed emerging technologies and U.S. supremacy in digital asset technology. So while the confusion, since the Trump administration, thankfully, has taken over, Commissioner Pierce has unveiled a 10-point action plan for the SEC's new crypto task force. And I would just share with my colleagues on the other side of the aisle that it's a really good read, and I would encourage you all to read it. One of the points that the commissioner makes is where Congress has directed the commission to impose requirements on market participants, SEC rules will not let you do whatever you want, whenever you want, however you want. Some of these rules will impose cost and others compliance burdens that some may find irritating, and the commission will use its enforcement tools when necessary to pursue noncompliance. It goes on to talk about the direction that he's going, and then of course list off 10 different directives or plans of action. And Mr. Garrison, and I would offer to anybody else if they would like, if you could briefly summarize some of the most important points in the action plan and explain some of the impact that you think that they will have on digital assets if they're accomplished.
Certainly. So the first two priorities, I think, are incredibly important. The first is clarifying the status of digital assets under the securities laws, as well as the second, scoping out activities that are outside the scope of the federal securities laws. And I think that really is the foundational question that the SEC has to tackle. Creating a very clear interpretation of how the SEC views when a digital asset that is sold pursuant to an investment contract fits under the securities laws. Everything else flows from that. Another maybe bucket, I would say, for the 10 priorities is writing rules and providing guidance on how regulated intermediaries by the SEC can touch digital assets. Now, that would apply both in the context of digital assets that are not securities, as well as digital assets that are securities, like a tokenized stock. Providing a clear pathway for broker-dealers, investment advisors, clearing agencies, transfer agents to be able to engage will really allow the ecosystem to flourish, will allow it to do so under a regulated way and in a way that is compliant and safe.
Yeah. Anybody else like to comment quickly? Okay.
If I could, I think it's a very thoughtful plan. I have great respect for Commissioner Peirce and Acting Chair Ueda. And I think given that and given the legislation that you all have noticed to create a joint committee, I would urge you to let the commissions work on this for a while and get stablecoin legislation in place. Let's learn from that, but not rush on market structure, because I think we could easily screw things up through the market structure legislation more than help.
Thank you. I've got 45 seconds. Anybody else want to comment?
Yeah, just very briefly, Congressman. I think, again, at the risk of repeating myself, this just reflects the new SEC leadership and administration, which wants to work with industry, which is extremely encouraging. And I think it was Mr. Garrison's written testimony where he had a great line, which said, the industry is not looking for special treatment, just fair treatment. So we look forward to working with the task force on next steps.
Okay.
Congressman, if I may add, one subject that hasn't been mentioned is clarity around staking, which Commissioner Peirce does outline in that plan. We think it is a very important part of the ecosystem. It's a lesser known component, but it is unique to the crypto ecosystem. So it's something we're looking forward to getting regulatory clarity here in the United States.
my time's expired, but I would be curious, you know, if some point, somehow, just some specific elements from successful regulatory frameworks that other jurisdictions have, what you all would recommend would be something that we keep in mind. So thank you. I yield back.
Gentleman yields back. The gentleman from